I really love video games.
Motherfucker!
And in the winter of 2010, my father bought 9-year-old me a PlayStation 3 for Christmas when I had begged for one after owning a PlayStation 2 for a while. A few months before that though, I thrifted a copy of God of War and realized games that were rated M for mature were for stupid babies. So when my PS3 came, my dad bought me a game he saw on TV called Battlefield Bad Company 2. This game was everything I wanted. Throwing C-400 tanks and watching them fly was the best thing my child brain has ever seen. This game's massive maps and objective-based gameplay with skill involved was the gateway drug that got me into games like Call of Duty and eventually my love child in Counter-Strike. But at the time, there was still no game out there like Battlefield. Until now. BattleBit Remastered is literally developed by 3 people, and it looks like a fucking Roblox game. But they took the aspects that made Battlefield good and then turned it into a title that sold 1.8 million copies in 2 weeks. So I decided to give it a shot, and I gotta be honest, it's way more fun than whatever the fuck this is. Just at first glance, you can tell that BattleBit is different. This game was obviously designed to look good and look like shit at the same time, so it manages to run on any potato you're playing on. Its massive servers of 256 players make it like an actual war out there. Gunfire in every direction, people dying left and right. You can hear their screams of agony. No, you're getting shot from in front of us. If I didn't know any better, I'd start to believe the US military is going to start using this game to scout for potential recruits like they did with Call of Duty. This game's server size is so big, I ran into my friend by accident while trying to get our teammates to jump off a cliff. I definitely think you can make that jump.
Wait, Kay, is this fucking you? Wait,
is that Fi? Fi? No way.
There's no way!
And if you don't have any friends, you can make some by dragging away the corpses of your enemies. This works surprisingly well. You're gonna be my friend now. If you couldn't tell already, the game has proximity chat, which from my experience has always made games better.
You stupid motherfucker!
It reminds me of Call of Duty when after someone dies, it enables their mic for a second and they're always talking shit to you.
Look at me with my LMG, I'm such a puss.
I just started using it! Except in this game, it's so goofy because you can talk to them for as long as you want.
I know this game is meaningless, but I'm having a
there?
real...
What the fuck are you
Why are you looking
there?
there?
Because I saw you, dickhead.
Why are you looking there?
Why'd you turn around for no reason?
Nuh-uh.
That's
Why you
weird.
turn around
Yep.
for no
That's
reason?
weird. You're stupid.
You're weird.
Fuck you.
You're weird.
Are you guys behind the wall over there?
About as big as Call of Duty.
No.
I'm joking when I say
Okay.
that.
When you see a group of over 20 people all on the same spot dying one at a time, you can just rally them like a madman and they will follow you to your death.
Charge!
This works literally every time. Men just cannot resist the urge of joining a human wave infantry attack. Being inspired by one of their comrades' courage, they refuse to let you charge in alone.
Actually worked.
There's no skill-based matchmaking in this game, so you aren't in a lobby with 200 kids who take 30 milligrams of Adderall just to play video games better than you, then make montages out of it. Everyone on the server is just trying to have a good time goofing around.
Hey guys.
Look at this interaction I had with a random soldier with no words being exchanged. This is exactly how the Starbucks barista looks at me whenever I throw out the drink they made me without even tasting it and then asking them to remake it 7 times. Hardly anyone in your lobbies are taking the game seriously, and it's a breath of fresh air because every multiplayer game today is trying to be a fucking esport and I'm sick of it. Why the fuck did we make a Super Auto Pets competitive game mode? Please take care of your real pets instead. Mustard needs your attention. I think a common misconception with games is that you don't actually have to be trying really hard to still play well and get killed. You can have fun without honing your 7 chakras to just shit on a group of dads who want a relaxing outlet away from responsibility and the horrors of reality. But there's always going to be people who only play to ruin your day using a broken gun that melts you before you can even blink. There always just is.
Are y'all fucking brain dead?
There was this video that went around Twitter about a former Valorant pro who made a frag movie out of this game and titled it Dominating Blue-Collar Workers in BattleBit. Like, yeah, his aim is really good, but when you're killing people with 10,000 less hours on FPS games than you, and you have the most overpowered gun in the game, it's a lot less impressive. I have similar clips, but they're not that cool to me because these people aren't looking at me and are probably playing with half a hot pocket in their mouth. At that point, it's basically just aim labs. Being good at games is one thing, but using the best gun in the game to farm clips off dads like crops, then brag about your bountiful harvest makes you quite corn-pilled. Because you are corny. You know those chess videos of grandmasters playing like random people at the park or something? Can you imagine if they uploaded a video of them destroying players with 3,000 less elos on them and then titling it "Dumb Fuck Plays Every Wrong Move"? And only as I'm making this joke am I realizing how funny that video would actually be. Thankfully there's no skill-based matchmaking, because if everyone in the lobby was playing like this, I would do unspeakable things to the Los Angeles City Hall with the help of 1,000 live termites. But even when someone is having an incredible game and they're absolutely shitting on you, they will only end the game with like 60 kills, which isn't even half of your team. There's so much going on at all times, it's easy to find action anywhere else on the map. This game is incredibly satisfying though.
Oh, I hit it!
Sniper headshots feel rewarding, hit markers with rifles feel crisp, Listen to the sound this tank made when I shot at it. It's not the easiest thing in the world to use every gun either. Some guns have serious recoil and make you play differently to get kills instead of just beaming them across the top of 4 buildings. You actually have to deal with the gun being awful before you can make it better with attachments. Also, of course, it has unlockable camos like Call of Duty, giving you incentive to use a gun you are already using way too much. Too bad that half of them look like trash, but that's okay, you can't hit every time. I mentioned earlier how it is similar, so to have gotten this far, we need to go back to understand what was the inspiration for Unturned Battlefield. I hopped on Bad Company 2 to see if it stands up now and why I enjoyed it so much as a kid. I very quickly got both answers, so number 1, it doesn't, and 2, I was a stupid dumbass child. That's a joke. I know standards were so much lower back then, but you have to understand it's hard for someone my age to grasp the idea of progress when all my generation has ever known was a nation stuck in stagnation. There are basically no active servers, and there's literally only like 40 people playing at any given moment, and they're all from Europe and probably about 50 years old. I'm sure it doesn't even include the DLC maps, so you won't even get the full experience again anyway. The game is slower and clunky, as with a lot of old games. It's obvious rose-tinted glasses play a huge part in nostalgia, but a big fundamental thing that hasn't changed is shoot enemy feel nice. Which is a low bar, but even with 180 ping, blowing a guy's head off feels just as satisfying as it should. Wait, pause. I'm sure this would be just as fun as it was back then if the server was fully populated, had every game mode, had every map, but those days are gone and we just have to reconcile with that. The pain of yesterday always carries over to tomorrow. Speaking of really low bars, I remember at this time Battlefield was touted as being the more realistic game compared to Call of Duty, but it's just that the graphics were better and the maps were bigger. I don't know what was very realistic about soldiers eating like 10 bullets like it's nothing before dying, but hey, that's just what people said back then. Many players didn't like to jump to the World War I and World War II style of gameplay, which was the trend with games at the time for some reason. I actually don't know why. So Battlefield 2042 was their chance to win the community back, and man, did it absolutely shit the fucking bed. The game's release was practically unplayable. Like, what the fuck was even the point of having an open beta if you're not gonna even fix the shit that was broken?
What the fuck is this game?
Even with them trying to fix its disastrous launch, it is still getting bombarded with negative reviews because the game still sucks shit. People don't even want to give Battlefield the light of day anymore. EA's incredible consistency in disappointing fans is honestly inspiring because those fuckers will still buy any piece of shit that they put out. Modern Battlefield kind of reminds me of Domino's. They changed their recipe and it was good for a little bit, but then after riding the high of the new taste, everyone got sick of it and it went back to tasting like they dumped a whole bag of sugar into your sauce. Some people will tell you it's good for the price. For $60, they give you all the food in the kitchen. It all tastes like shit and it's all just different flavors of bread. In 2016 though, shortly after the release of Battlefield 1, which is confusingly called that because it takes place during World War I, Sergeant Okidoki Velasquez and the Liquid Horse announced BattleBit on Steam Greenlight. Fans of Battlefield didn't know it just yet, but this game would be more enjoyable than any game EA releases for the next 7 years, except for maybe Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville, but hey, they don't miss the forest for the trees. In January of 2022, more than 800,000 people added the game to their wishlist on Steam, and as of today, currently have around 35,000 playing it on Steam. And if you think that's not that many, here's a few games I thought were funny that have more players than Battlefield 2042 right now. Skyrim and Left 4 Dead 2, Euro Truck Simulator and American Truck Simulator, Farming Simulator 22, Cookie Clicker, Arma 3, Fallout 76, a notorious shit show of a game, Hogwarts Legacy, and just for fun I looked up Counter-Strike 1.6, which is a game that came out in 2003, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, a game that has about 7 other Call of Duties release after it, Fallout New Vegas. I mean, this one is just a really great game, but it's still surprising. And Blender. Fucking Blender has more people online than people playing Battlefield 2042. What's even funnier is that other Battlefields have seen a steady rise in player count in the last 30 days when compared to 2042, and they're playing the games that were scolded upon release. I'm pretty sure this player count excludes players on Origin and probably consoles, but that doesn't really help the case of a franchise worth $2.7 billion. So what's the main takeaway here? Competition is good because if one company owns the market, then they have no reason to make things better because they make the standard. Look at EA in the 2K series. Every single year they release an NBA 2K and it's the same fucking game every single time, just slightly change graphics and player stats sort of match up to how they are in reality. 2K on PC is absolute horseshit because it's overrun with cheaters, and what's even worse is that the graphics on PC aren't even updated to the next gen on the newest release because they know that most of their players play on console. I'm seeing screenshots of 2K 2K23, and people are comparing it to 2K14, and the game literally looks worse 9 years later. And this is what happens when you have no competition. They're allowed to get away with this kind of shit because they're the only company who's allowed to sell these kinds of games. They know people will buy it because they're the only supplier for the demands, so why do they need to spend money making things better? Battlefield used to compete with Call of Duty. Call of Duty was always beating Battlefield in sales and released way more frequently than they did. After they came out with Warzone becoming bigger than ever, Battlefield basically can't do anything to compete other than just to be Battlefield. I really wanted 2042 to be a good game. I really did. I always loved this franchise, and I will never forget how much fun I used to have with it. But this game was just spitting in the face of any fans remaining. One of the main selling points of the game was their popular quote, "only in Battlefield," where they showcase really cool plays that you can't do in any other kind of game. But what happens when it's no longer only in Battlefield? What happens when another game takes the best features of your game and makes it cheaper, better, and more accessible? Well, then you get to lose your player base and they get to reap the benefits of your scummy, greedy failure. I rate BattleBit an 8.2 out of 10 potato cats. Need more block.
I'm definitely.